Welcome on in. Broken up and shattered. It's your boy KB coming at you all the way live from my Soul Renegade Sound Studios here in Minneapolis. I am welcoming you to the Ken Valdez Approach. My friends, if you are not familiar with the name Chris Duarte, you need to get yourself familiar real quick. He is considered to be one of the greatest guitar players alive. He is incredible. This guy has taken blues rock guitar into the stratosphere. His style is so unique. This guy combines rock and blues and jazz and just straight up alien type stuff into his music. I'm convinced. He says he's from San Antonio, man. I think that he's from Mars. He's that kind of guitar player. He's incredible. Plus, his live shows are always an experience. They're great. I've known Chris now for well over 20 years. He and I have traveled thousands upon thousands upon thousands of miles together, have done many, many shows. Hey, man, he was even on my Soul Renegade record on the song Sugar Shakin' Boogaloo, and he put on a clinic. He's also one of the people that I consider to be a near and dear friend. I think the world of him. He's also the hardest working guy in this business, the biggest road dog I have ever met in my life. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, let me introduce you to my friend Chris Duarte. I hope you enjoy the conversation here on The Approach. All right, well, I am here with my guy, Chris Duarte. Man, how are you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, Ken. It's great to see you, and it's great to be out there again.
Oh, man, likewise. It's good to see you. How have you been? What's going on?
Been doing good. You know, I mean, the biggest thing is I got back in the studio back in September last year and recorded another album. I got a Brandon Temple on drums. He was, of course, on the first record, Texas Sugar. And then I got Jessica Will on bass, which is a bass player that I've been playing around town with. And she's just so rock solid. And I wanted somebody the cat that I normally use, great player, great soldier, but I wanted somebody really simple and that wouldn't kind of overthink the situation because the label kind of wanted a blues record. And that's what kind of put me off my balance a little for a while, more equilibrium. They wanted a blues record. And I was like, no, man, I want to, flex my musical muscle again, show what people have been. But, after I thought about it, it's like, yeah, just get out. That's really my wheelhouse, playing the blues and stuff. So I pretty much did another blues record. There's a couple crazy Chris songs on there, but it's unmistakably Chris Duarte. And Jessica Will's great. She was a great fit for it. And that's all it is. And it was so simple. I mean, the studio we went into out in northern part of L.A., it had great equipment, a lot of vintage stuff. And I did the whole album on just one guitar, a couple pedals, and one amp. And that's all I did the whole album.
Wow. How long did it take for you to finish that thing?
We did it in 2 weeks. We tracked everything in 2 weeks. And the funny thing was I was just messing around because I thought that the normal MOD or the normal MO that I've been associated with Mike Varney doing all the records with Mike Varney is, you go in, you get the rhythm tracks. So the normal ways, you get the rhythm tracks. And then if you can get a couple solos, great, but normally you'll come back and redo the solos, maybe redo some rhythm parts or add some rhythm parts, and you'll get the vocals coming back. So when the vocals were set, anyway, I'm sorry, getting ahead of myself. When the solos came up while we're recording the tracks, I'm just, okay, solo, whiz around, the guitar sounds great, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so we do all that, we leave, and he goes, okay, come back to do the vocals. So I grab my guitar, I get in the studio, and it's a different studio now, and all it is just a console room and a little vocal booth.
Oh,
and
wow.
I'm like, we're going to do guitar tracks, aren't we? And he goes, what? Guitar? No, it's done. Everything's done.
Nice.
He's like, what? Are you kidding me? Play me some of that guitar. I want to hear it. And sure enough, it sounded great. And I was thinking, I know how Dennis operates. Dennis Herring is producing it. He did Texas Sugar and Romp, and he records everything. The moments before the song, the moments during we're talking stuff, he records everything because you never know when there might be some sort of diamond in the rough there, hidden away. He recorded everything and everything just sounded great and it worked out. But I was wondering, if he had told me, hey, when the solos come up, Chris, apply yourself. Let's try to get this all done. And if I would have like tightened up and done something different, because the solos sound good. A lot of it's not like this, whoa, Chris Duarte's playing some new stuff and it's really blowing my hair back. No, it's like straight blues, and the phrasing's good. The tone's great, and that's what I was most proud of. It's not me trying to show off and look at me, listen to me. It's really a group thing, and it sounds great.
I can't wait to hear it just off of that, man. And the fact that you went back in and worked with Dennis, was it? Is that right?
Yeah, Dennis Herring.
Dennis Herring. Well, I mean, the fact that he did Texas Sugar and he did Romp, which are probably two of my favorites that you've done, that in and of itself just makes me real curious to check it out, because I dig the work that you do, and I obviously love those two records. So that makes me excited, man. I'm excited to check that out. People look at you as such an incredible guitar player. I think the world of you. You and I go way back. Man, just a hero as far as I'm concerned. A friend and a hero of mine, and I love that. But hearing you say, yeah, man, listening back to the guitars and whatnot, and it all sounded really good. You're a guy that, you blow minds with your playing. So what is it that you look for when you're playing, listening back to your own solos, that you're like, yeah, that's it, that's the one?
What I listen for is the tone. I listen to the phrasing and really the how it rhythmically goes along, because I'm like a big sort of rhythm player too. I love playing rhythm. I mean, if you can stick me in the background playing rhythm all night, that would be just fine with me. No solos, fine with me. I mean, my ultimate gig would be playing rhythm in AC/DC. I would love that gig. I would kill for that gig. In fact, man. I actually did, when they were up for looking for rhythm guitar players, I sent in a little thing to their booking agent and told them, I'm available. I would love to do this thing. Of course, they kept the family. But anyway.
Oh, man. I would have loved that. I would have loved that. Oh, my God.
I listen for the tone and for the rhythmic qualities of it. And that's what I'm mainly listening to, how it lines up with the drums and all the hits and stuff. And then how it feels. It feels good to me, because we all know as guitar players when it's feeling right. I know there are those chances where, you think you played a terrible show, then you listen back to a tape later and you go, well, that's not so bad. That's pretty good.
Right.
So, but, that's what I'm listening for, is how it lines up with everything. It's not in an unusual place, if it works. And that's basically it.
Fantastic, man. Well, how did you come to the guitar? Let's go way back, man. Let's start at the beginning. How did you discover music? How did you discover the guitar? And what kind of propelled you to where you are today?
What led me to the guitar was probably the very beginning, was when Fiddler on the Roof made its network debut on TV. There's a scene in it where the fiddler's on the roof and he's silhouetted against the starry night, and he's sawing out, and I thought that was so cool looking. I thought that was so hip. And so immediately when school started, this is third grade, I think, second or third grade, I was in DC, and I went down and I tried to sign up for band or orchestra, and I wanted to play the violin. And they told me at the desk, they said, we have too many violin players. How about the clarinet? I said, okay, clarinet. So I went home and I told my mom, I said, too many violin players. How about the clarinet? And my mom was just thinking of me in a room squawking out these lines on a clarinet, how she wouldn't go for it. My mom goes, no, you're not playing the clarinet. No. So that was it. It wasn't like an alternative. Hey, we'll get you this, we'll get you that. No, it was just no clarinet. It's like, okay. So I went on being a young boy, running around the neighborhood with the kids and stuff. But the seed was kind of planted. Right. So then later, when I'm about 12 or 13, my older brother gets a guitar, and he's got a Takamine classical guitar, nylon string. And so I'm constantly picking that thing up, playing it. My mom decides, well, you're playing it all the time. I think it's time you get a guitar. So then we went down to Caldwell Music in San Antonio. It was right down. I don't think they're even around anymore, but they were downtown, one of the big music stores at the time. And we got a Takamine F-140, like a dreadnought. And for me, I was trying to learn solos and stuff. So what I would do is I would just put electric strings on it. I wouldn't put acoustic strings. The electric strings were a lot looser and I could bend the strings. So I played it with electric strings for probably the first 2 or 3 years I had that thing. And one thing I noticed when I would hang out with the kids in the smoking area, I wasn't a smoker, but that's where all my friends were. All the freaks were there. And so I'd hang out there. And when we'd be playing, you know, we got Beatles books at home and stuff because it's really easy to learn songs and learn your chords too, because the chords are like right over the words as you're reading along in the song. So it was real easy to read. I found it very easy to read that music. I found that I was just a really quick learner. I'd say, what's the problem? You know the song, these are the chords, it's real easy, here's how it goes. And people wouldn't get it. And I finally started to realize, well, maybe I got something here. Maybe I got something a lot of people don't have. I have this natural ability. So I just started to really work at it. And then from then on, I dropped out of high school. And then I moved to Austin, and I moved to Austin specifically because my friend Clark Ellison was a bass player, and he knew how to read music, the standard notation. Sure. And I moved in with him up in Austin in a small efficiency apartment, and we just started learning songs. And at this time, I was a big prog rock guy. So I was learning like a bunch of Yes songs, and I was trying to be like, you know, Mahavishnu and Al Di Meola. When I heard Land of the Midnight Sun for the very first time, I was like, that's what I want to be like. When he started ripping those notes, I was like, yes, that's what I want to be. I want to play like that. So that's what I did. And then I got my first band, which is pretty much a jazz band, which I couldn't play jazz to save my life. But I could read the chord charts because I had already gotten a real book, my first real book.
Oh, wow.
Back in the days when you had to ask, you know, I'll take a real book, you know, under your breath because they were illegal and you had to find the right music stores. Everybody knew which music store to go to get one. But of course, I had my real book. So from then on, I started reading chord charts, learning how to read chord charts, and learning all those chords, you know, the jazz chords or the chords with the extensions in them. Yes. And then it was just after that, then I got in a blues band after that. And when I found out that I didn't sound like the guys in the record, I had this really snobbish attitude towards blues. Oh, it's easy. How much easier can you get? 1-4-5. There's nothing like this, you know, nothing like giant steps or moment's notice or something. That's a chord, you know, that's a chord structure. But when I started playing blues, I was like, I sound nothing like those guys in the record. These guys sound cool. I don't sound cool. So I started really working on the blues. And Bobby Mack and Night Train got in that group, and we were touring around Texas, and that's what kind of started it.
Oh my gosh, man. So, I mean, yeah, I knew that you had a penchant for jazz, and I knew that you had a penchant for cats like, you know, well, the Mahavishnu Orchestra.
The horn players. Yeah, I was really attached to horn players.
Yeah, and you can tell, too, the way that you play, a lot of times your rhythmic style, you're almost sounding like a horn section. If you know, just the way that you accent certain notes and things like that. So yeah, I totally catch that with your playing for sure. But how did you discover the blues, and what made you kind of go down that road, especially coming from, you know, well, like Mahavishnu Orchestra?
Yeah, all the prog rock.
Yeah, right. All the cool prog stuff.
Yeah, because Gentle Giant, you know, and Nectar and all those groups, I just loved them to death, and all those, you know, Brand X. I was crazy about those guys. Man. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
So what it was because when I started playing the blues, like I said, it was like, you know, they give me a blues solo and I'd be playing all this crazy stuff and these blues progressions. Like, no, that's not too great, Chris. Listen to this. Bobby said, okay, here's some Freddie King solos. I want you to learn these solos note for note, just like they are. And when your solo comes up, that's what I want you to play. And that's what he did. He made me learn all these Freddie King solos, learn these Hubert Sumlin solos. And it really made me appreciate the phrasing and the way they attacked the notes, the tone they had on their guitars. And then I'd start to go out and see players. I used to go see Derek O'Brien. I used to just sit at his feet at the Austex Lounge. And I was amazed because it's like, that guy has not played one mistake this whole night. And here I play mistakes all the time, and he's playing so consistent. I want to be like that. So I really started to work at the blues, and I wanted to be good at it. You know, I didn't want to be a hack. I wanted to sound just like the records or close to it, but then not be At the time, no. At the time, being a clone would have been just fine. You know, if I could sound just like BB or just like Freddie, fine with me, or Albert King. But then, I'm sorry, I'm getting scattered here. I'm just thinking all the memory. These memories are just flooding in.
I love it.
So I wanted to be good, and I wanted to sound just like the records, because I felt that's the high watermark. I need to sound like these guys, because these are the guys, the place that I go out and hear people play, they're sounding like this. So I want to sound like this too. That's just it. I just wanted to be good. I wanted to sound good. I wanted a good tone, but I wasn't really confusing myself with trying to chase a tone through the amps, because I knew the tone was coming from my hands. Right. It's how I attack the notes. It's how I, play the strings with my right hand, and that's what I concentrated on, is all that stuff, learning how to play like what I hear on the records. And then when I started listening to Stevie's stuff, because all us guitar players, we had bootleg tapes of Stevie. All of us did. We had several shows. That Steamboat show that in the beginning, they made it into an album. Yes. Everybody had that. And we all knew that as the Steamboat tape, because it was recorded at Steamboat, the club. And I'd listen to it and I'd be going, how is he getting those tonal changes? And how is he? Oh, he's changing the pickup selector. That's what he's doing. So I started working on that, started changing, different pickups for different sections of the songs. And I really delved in deep to that. And that's mainly why I play a Strat these days, is because you have 5 tones you can sort of work at. That's your base foundation. And then when you start putting in your hands and how you attack the notes and how you pick them, there's more tones to that. So that's when I started really hunkering down and working hard. And my wife at the time, she had a good state job, and I quit working at the age of 24, and I stayed home and practiced and practiced and practiced, because I was already playing a bunch of gigs. I was already playing anywhere between 15 and 20 gigs a month. And I told my wife, I said, I know I have something here. I know I could do something. If you let me stay home and practice, I promise I'll practice real hard, and I'll be making just as much money as you. Because at the time, it wasn't world domination. It was just making rent. We had a child now. Celeste was born. And I said, I can make just as much money as you if you let me stay home and practice, and I could probably get in better groups, and we'll get more money. And that was the goal, just to make rent and make more money.
Unbelievable. Your approach to the guitar, you kind of talked about picking up a Strat, and you have those 5 pickup selections, right? You don't use a wah pedal. No. And there was a trick that you had taught me a while back. This was, this must be almost 20 years ago.
Yeah, easily.
And I still use it when I don't have a wah pedal, and it is the coolest thing ever. And people wonder how you do it. And I can't, it's hard to explain without actually showing. But man, I like the fact that you said that you have 5 bass tones. Yeah. And then you can go from there, because you do go from there. And there's a whole lot more of a tonal palette than you think is actually there for you in a Stratocaster. I love that. So, yeah, thank you for adding to my arsenal there.
And then I learned that from a drummer. My roommate was a drummer. Gosh. And he sort of played guitar, and he was doing that, and his roommate was going, wow, 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 wow. And I was like, how are you doing that? Yeah. So you take the first tone knob, and you turn it all the way bass, and then you work on every downstroke with your right hand. You hit the toggle switch, put it back to the treble pickup, and then back up to the front pickup. And that's how basically it's a wah pedal, going from bass to treble, wah. And so I worked with that, and I worked at getting different ways to get around that, because I've listened to McLaughlin. He does these rhythm things, which I know he learned from his time with Indian music. But I mean, that's what I kind of worked on. And the thing I love cool is when you start doing that, what I start doing on stage is I start walking around, because people think I'm like moored to a wah pedal, but I show them, nope, it's not a wah. I'm just walking around. Yeah. I used to be actually much better at it. It's kind of fallen by the wayside a little, but I still do it once in a while. And that way it keeps it special. Because if you do it all the time during a gig, it's like, oh, he's doing that thing again. If you do it like once or twice a night, it's like, whoa, that was so cool.
Right. Well, now after this whole thing, you're going to go right back to it and go, oh, yeah.
Working on a little bit. Exactly.
Because Lord knows I'm going to be doing the exact same thing once we get off.
And that's what I tell people. I mean, what I would do when I go see Derek O'Brien play a whole night, I would be freaked out because Stevie was playing. Yeah, he was playing every Tuesday at Rome and every Thursday at the Continental Club. And I did see him at the Continental Club, before he had any record out or anything. But, I got to see Derek O'Brien. That's who I learned. And David Murray, another great guitar player. And Denny Freeman, of course. I got to see all those guys. Yeah, Denny was tremendous, man. Just the vocabulary he had and the tones he had, amazing. But I used to watch those guys, and immediately I would go home and start practicing because I would just be watching their hands and both of them, their right and their left hand, and how are they getting this and how are they doing that. I mean, yeah. I mean, I know a lot of guys, no, I'm going to go home, throw on my guitar. No, don't do that. Go home and practice. Right. That's what I did.
That's awesome. Where are you from originally?
Originally, I'm from San Antonio, Texas. Born in the Nix Hospital right downtown in San Antonio. It's still there, as a matter of fact, still operational. Nice. But yeah, it was the Nix Hospital in San Antonio, 1963.
Wow, man. And you moved to Austin for the music?
For the music specifically, because all my friends in Smoking Air, they were talking about a club called Raoul's, which was really a punk club. A lot of the punk guys. I remember people were talking about when Iggy Pop came to Austin, he played, at Raoul's, and all the cats, the just all the punk guys that were coming up, Dead Kennedys were playing there. I want to say Cheetah Chrome was this guitar player. I can't remember the name of well, he was a guitar player, punk guitar player. But I kind of loved that music at the beginning because it was just this unbridled, awesome, aggressiveness on the guitar, and I just loved that whole spirit. I was still a prog rock guy, but I appreciated the energy that punk rock brought to the scene. It just kind of changed things up, and that's what I loved about it, the change it brought, because everybody, disco was going. There was the disco sucks and all that movement.
Right.
But I love the way punk came in and kind of shook things up. I moved to Austin because that's where all my friends were talking about it being a music town. And so that's why I moved there.
Well, with Austin being a music town, what is it? What is it that draws people there? I mean, you have, for a lot of the blues guys, for a lot of the guitar players, it's the allure of Stevie and Jimmy and, Doyle and Charlie and all those guys, and then they start learning about Denny and they start learning about cats like that. What was it for you regarding Austin, being a music town? What makes it such a almost like a mecca of a music town, if you will?
I think what it is, it's the large population of musicians that we have here. And I think what it was for me was the opportunity. I knew if I get in a band that I would start playing out in front of people. In San Antonio, I knew of very few clubs that I can get into. I mean, I wasn't even on that level yet of getting into a band and thinking about playing on stage, getting paid for it. That was like so far off. The highest goal that I could achieve is probably playing in a garage with some friends. Normally, we never had a bass player. Nobody was playing bass. You always had like 3 guitar players and a drummer, and that's basically how it was. And Austin, I felt, just offered more opportunity for me to really achieve my goals, to learn more and to get into bands that would be playing in front of people. And that's what I think what it did for me. And sure enough, it happened. I went right for it. I started practicing, got in some groups, started networking. And before you knew it, there I was playing. My first gig was playing in an Italian restaurant, playing background music. For my pay was a plate of spaghetti. That's what I got. I got a meal for playing. That was my first gig. And then my other first gig was, I think I made $32 at a jazz gig. I think that's how much it was, which was actually a lot of money back then.
Well, right. I mean, my stories of Austin are usually, playing a club, and at the end of the night, you get paid your, whatever, your $30 or whatever. Yeah. You go down to Magnolia's or whatever, out in Congress, and you go have your breakfast, and you see everybody that was playing that night there too.
Right.
Yeah, that's my memory of Austin for sure, man. But there really is a magic there. There really is an allure there, and I definitely love it. And there seems to be a sound. There seems to be a true Austin sound, and not a whole lot of cities can kind of boast that. You might have your New Orleans, you might have Austin. You might have Minneapolis,
Chicago, Memphis.
Yes.
Yeah. LA's even got its own thing, you know?
Yeah, yeah. What is, in your opinion, the Austin sound?
It's the big guitar, the big Texas tone on the guitar. You know, you back off the mid and you push the treble and the bass on your amp. And, you know, everybody's playing old Fenders, especially the amp that a lot of the blues guys loved in the 80s, part of the 90s, was the 60s Super Reverbs.
Right.
Everybody, that was the amp of choice to get. I never owned one. I had my I had a blonde Bandmaster when I first moved to Austin, but I never got a cabinet for it. And then the first real amp I had was a Fender 75, and that's what I learned to play with. I'm not one of these cats that searches for this one tone. I mean, I get something and I work with it and see what I can get out of it.
Right.
And Fender 75 was the amp that landed in my lap and then I learned how to use. And what I got that from David Murray. It was his amp. He gave it to me or he sold it to me. And that's where I started off from. You know, it's funny you mentioned the Magnolia Cafe. Magnolia Cafe, that used to be the Austex Lounge long time ago. And that's where I go see, you know, Derek O'Brien. I go see Lucinda Williams. She'd be playing there.
Sure.
She'd be playing there to nobody. I mean, I remember when I was doing my job, I was the office supply delivery driver from when I was 20 to 24. And there was Townes Van Zandt playing in a little club off the Drag, which is Guadalupe Street between 19th and 29th Street. There's Townes Van Zandt starting up at, 12 o'clock in the afternoon, just sitting in this back room playing songs. You know, this has got to be like 1981, 82 maybe. Yeah, back then. But yeah, that's what I mean. You know, Austin just had the opportunities back in the day, in the early 80s to mid 80s. There was close to 200 clubs that featured music, 7 nights a week. And that runs the gamut of even hotel lounges where I saw great jazz players at hotel lounge. The Hyatt Regency, I used to always go see Bill Ginn, who was the keyboard player for Passenger. I'd see him backing up Susie Stern, great jazz vocalist, Horacio Rodriguez on bass. These guys aren't with us anymore, but I used to go watch them down at the lounge, the Atrium Lounge in the Hyatt Regency down on the river. There was another club called Piggy's that was down. It's now Manuel's. It's a Mexican food restaurant. Before that, it was Duke's Royal Coach Inn, which is a punk club. And it's on the west side of Congress between 3rd and 4th Street. Manuel's is still there, but it used to be Piggy's, and they were a jazz club. I played there many times. On the corner at 4th and Congress is a place called the Texas Inn. That was like more of a dive. That was another club that a lot of sort of blues and punk guys played at. Then the old near the Greyhound station, which used to be on 4th off Congress between Brazos and Congress on the east side, that was Club Foot. And that was like a medium size venue. That was like, the 250 to 500 seater. Right. And I saw a lot of people. I saw Dr. John play there. I'd seen some reggae bands play there. I saw some other bands. I can't even remember the other bands played there, but I remember Dr. John specifically. I remember saw his show. And I mean, all the clubs that were just downtown, and that's just to name a few. And there were some other ones. The Elephant Room's still going. That's down on Congress between 3rd and 4th on the west side. And that one's been around for a long time.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, but getting back to the reason I moved to Austin, the opportunity was there. Many opportunities.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. Well, you also are notorious. I have said this many, many times, and I'm sure that I will continue to say it. You are the biggest road dog I've ever met in my life. Ever. You, man, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how and you're the one that drives. You're the one that drives. You're the guy. I mean, how many dates a year do you normally do? Because I mean, you're out, man. You go.
Well, during our peak years, I remember we added it up. Like during, I believe it was probably 1992 when we were just getting started and really playing on. Because 91 is when we started taking the CDG on the road, and our only corridor was we had a club called Fatso's in Arlington, Texas. And then we'd play Liberty D's, which is in Norman, Oklahoma. and then we'd play the Bottleneck in Lawrence, Kansas, and then we play the Zoo Bar in Lincoln, Nebraska. And that was our corridor. We'd go up there, and then 3 months later, we'd do the whole thing, and we'd do that run. And we did that probably 4 or 5 times before we started branching out. You know, clubs in Colorado started hearing about us. Clubs on the east side of all those gigs, Missouri, Kansas City, they started playing the Grand Emporium. Actually, I played the Grand Emporium in the mid-'80s with Junior Medlow and the Bad Boys, as well as the Zoo Bar. I played the Zoo Bar first time, probably 1987 with Junior Medlow and the Bad Boys. But, you know, they slowly, word of mouth sort of spread. Back in the old days, that's how you got records, you know, word of mouth spread, buzz. We didn't have social media. We didn't have all, you know, you'd send out your press packs to clubs and stuff with a cassette tape, you know. That's how you get and a band photo and a little bio, you know, in a folder, in a little folder, portfolio folder. But anyway, that's how we did. It sort of spread word of mouth. And before you knew it, you know, we had made it up Chicago. We had played Buddy Guy's Legends a couple times. And the place, it already had a scene there. I mean, it was already had a crowd. Every Friday and Saturday, it was going to be guaranteed packed. But it was starting to really get packed for my shows. I mean, there'd be this huge line out the door, lining up at 7 p.m., and I didn't start till 9 or 10. And the guy there, the manager, the A&R guy from Silvertone called him up and said, "Oh, well, who you got playing there?" Because Buddy Guy was on Silvertone. Right. And the manager for Legend goes, "Oh, man, you just hear this guy. Chris Duarte is playing this really raucous sort of Texas guitar player. It's real aggressive. I just love it. Crowds go crazy for him." And the guy was like, "I'll go check it out." So he flew down there, Michael Tedesco, which he doesn't work for Silvertone anymore, I found out. But he flew down there, loved it, met me that night. A couple months later, lawyers were meeting and contract was signed. And it was all done without sending out a ton of press packs, without a booking. Well, actually, I did have a booking agent at that time. But yeah, without a manager, without all that stuff that you kind of need nowadays. Right. It was just done the old way. But yeah, that's sort of started. And plus, I love being on the road. I don't mind driving. It's my van. It doesn't bother me a bit. Plenty of guys can drive. That's what I tell them. You know, we're here to drive. I said, man, there's enough miles for everybody on this tour. Do not worry. You'll get to drive. Right. But I mean, I just love it pulling up, and every day is going to be different. And that's what I love about it. You know, you might be in a hotel. The main things are sort of the same. It's a hotel. It's a club. It's going to be miles driving. But you don't know what's going to happen in between that. You don't know how the gig's going to be. And I just love it. You know, plus nowadays I make much more money out on the road than I do hanging around Austin. And so it doesn't bother me to be out on the road. Plus, you know, I got all my partying out of me. I've been sober for a while. I got the partying out of me. Right. And now I just leave all that energy for the music, save it for the stage, you know, because I would see it on the road. I could tell which bands wouldn't be around for very long because they'd be partying super hard and they'd be hungover the next day. And I'm like, give these guys about a year or two and they'll be gone. Yeah. And sure enough, most of them always fell by the wayside because it takes a certain discipline you have to have on the road. You really got to want that life because it gets pretty tough, man.
Yeah. Well, how do you stay sane on the road, if you will? Like, I mean, is there like a routine that you have that kind of keeps you mentally and physically, you know, I guess conditioned, or, you know, just performing at your best, or, you know, is it just kind of like been there, done that, I know how this goes, and, you know, just repeat?
I mean, there'll always be the been there, done that, but it's what I do. Back in the day when we first started going on the road, we would just get to the club, whatever, you know, we didn't have the routine of advancing shows. That didn't come until later, where you call up the club. Okay, when's load in, when blah, blah, blah. You know, we felt that was for bigger groups, and we didn't even know about that routine yet. Right. But we just get to the club whenever, and we would stay there the whole time. And then after the gig, we would go out looking for a hotel, and then we'd all squeeze into one room, you know, no matter, there was just 3 of us. So it was easy to squeeze into one room. And that's how the gig went. I mean, we'd be hanging out the club, practicing backstage, you know, for several hours, after sound check be done. It'd be 4 or 5 o'clock. We didn't play till 10. We just hang around the club. We weren't drinking. I never was a drinker, so I wouldn't drink. I'd sit there and I'd practice the whole time, sitting backstage and working up new songs, trying to write songs. The routine I do now is I just get myself steadily to the gig. None of this speeding. I got all those yayas out of me a long time ago. We don't do that crazy driving. We just drive the speed limit, get to the gig, advance the show, find out if you get there a little early, go check into the motel, go down, do load in. If you have enough time, maybe go back to the hotel, get a little bit more hours of practicing in, just chill, and then get down to the club, play, and then get out of there. Very few times do I hang out at a club after the gig. Very few. I'm mainly just packing my stuff up, get my money, and I'm gone.
Wow.
And it's not that I do like hanging around and stuff like that, but that's just the routine I'm in, and that's what saves me the energy to get up and do it again the next day.
It's a job, man.
Yeah, it is. I mean, our first wives used to think it was like once we left the door, okay, goodbye, we'll see you in 6 weeks. Because back there, the tours were always 6 to 8 weeks.
Right.
And they thought it was just a nonstop party from then on until we got back. It's like, no, this is tough work. I mean, when you're driving through inclement weather, not just raining, when you have to do snow and there's ice on the roads and you're driving 15 miles an hour for hours and hours. And if you have to do mountain passes, you're crawling, you can go up the mountains, 15, 30 miles an hour. But when you're coming down, you're going like 5 miles an hour.
Yes.
I mean, I've done all that,
Oh, yeah.
I remember one time we were going to Telluride and the mountains were just horrible, iced over. And we had to be at the club by 10 o'clock. Well, no way we were going to make by 10. We made it to Ridgeway by 12 o'clock, and it was just 20 miles to go. And we were like, we can at least play 1 hour when we get there. Nope, it took us 2 hours to go 20-something miles, just driving slow. But it's that. It's probably terrible PAs. You have to deal with the sound, and not going in there and being a diva. Kill them with kindness. That's always my thing, because I want to create a productive musical environment. That's what I need to play my best, is a good, positive atmosphere here, because I can't do it if the club owner's really grouchy or the sound guy's a grouch or it's just everything just high stress. I really can't play in those conditions.
You also said something too, though, about just killing them with kindness, right? And that's something that we've said on this show countless times. Just how easy is it for you just to be nice, right? Just to be nice. Right? And I mean, that's going to go so much further than you being an asshole and like, let's see how long you work. Your longevity, your consistency is proof of your demeanor, So, good on you, man. Good job.
Because the thing is, people will always remember if you're an asshole, and they'll remember because you'll never be back there. Everything they'll talk about is how much of an asshole you were.
Right.
But if you're kind and you always come in, you're responsible, you always start on time, you're easygoing, you work with anything. Believe me, even if you're not doing good for business there, they'll still give you a gig because they like you.
Yes.
And that's how I've maintained these relationships with clubs for 20 years, 25 years.
Right. Well, that's also kind of the name of the game. I mean, when we look at it as a business, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is what helps us keep the lights on. So, I mean, this is when it does become a job, and this is when it does become a grind. And, it's those moments where we're faced with the tribulations and whatnot. That's where you rise up. That's where you shine. And that's kind of where, I think that's one of those places where really they'll make or break a band. They'll make or break an artist. They'll kind of show you who's cut out for the road and who's not.
Right.
So it's so great hearing this from you, because you're echoing things that I believe. You're also man, you're making me miss the road. I can't wait to get back out, So, yeah, I'm sure that there's a bunch of musicians listening right now just going, yeah, no, I totally get it.
Yeah,
and if you're not following what this guy is saying, you're that one.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't do that.
Right.
You're not supposed to do that.
Yeah, because I mean, and there are gigs where it's real high stress in there, and I have to put on this veneer of I'm gonna work and be so kind to them and just work through this, because I need to do my show. That's for my own well-being. And then I see a lot of young cats nowadays, because I've had this gig down on 6th Street every Wednesday and Thursday that I can pretty much play anything. So I use it as kind of like a workout gig. I can work on a lot of things and I can play whatever I want and they love it. But I see a lot of the younger cats. I'm getting to know a lot of the younger players that are coming up in Austin because it's down there in 6th Street. And I see them and they're kind of being lazy, sitting on their amps, playing the slow blues. It's their mindset is there's nobody here. I don't care. I was like, dude, do you know how happy I was to be on a stage? I didn't care if there was nobody here. I'm on stage playing I'm getting paid to do what I love to do,
Right.
Even if it's $3 or $4, I don't care. I'm being paid to play. I'm being, the club has allowed me to come in and play my music. Are you crazy? Yeah. I mean, when I was in my young 20s, I couldn't wait to get out there on stage. And then, I mean, even though I've gotten older and it does get a little tough sometimes, but I still, when I step on that stage ready for gig, it's like, yep, this is why I'm here.
Absolutely.
It's because I get to play, and I've been able to play my own music, do my own thing for 27, 28, 30 years almost, and make a living at it and put a girl through college.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Man, I remember being in high school. I remember rolling downtown Santa Fe, the mean streets of Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Oh, yeah.
Hanging with my buddy, Nick Calavoda, Nick Colley, Mr. Colley, who's an incredible reggae artist, by the way.
Right.
But I remember being in high school, driving down, the downtown Santa Fe, and My Way Down comes on the radio. And it's on the radio. It's not this. Yeah. I like, what is this? This was so new, and it was refreshing, and it had those moments of familiarity. You had those kind of Austin-y, Stevie kind of things going on. But it was funky, and it was cool, and it was different, and there was a different kind of passion, a different kind of aggression. Having you be out since 95, right? Like really hitting hard and getting on the radio. What has the climate of the music business, how has it changed for you since 1995? Has it gotten better for you? Has it gotten worse for you? How do you think that it's helping or hurting new artists?
I think, several things have changed because with social media, that being probably the biggest thing.
Yes.
You can get out there and connect with people over the computer. You can send all your music and your photos and stuff right to the club electronically. That's a big thing. You can get out and advertise, to possibly thousands, if not millions of people at once with the social media. That helps you. Networking is easier. You don't have the mail system to do it. You don't have, phones, cell phones. Back in the day, when you got in that van, you drove, nobody was contacting you till you got to a phone,
Right.
Back in the day, GPS, we used to have the big laminated atlas. That was our GPS back in the day. We used to joke about if only we had on the dashboard this electronic thing that we can access information. We used to talk about this back in the early 90s when we were on the road. This electronic thing that we can access all this information and get a hold of people. Turns out now it's just in our pockets. We walk around within our pockets. But money has gotten a little, if you're doing well, things are going to be well for you. You're going to have, you're going to probably be in a tour bus. You're probably going to be making a little bit more money. You'll be staying in nicer places. With me, I think with all the social media and stuff, it's been able, even though I've waned a lot actually, but I've been able to still make a living from just having Texas Sugar do so well, because I mean, realistically, none of my albums have done as well as Texas Sugar. And so I've been still able to live off Texas Sugar, you know, for all these years. I mean, I've had little pockets, you know, little bumps here and there, but I'm hoping to get back this new record. I'm hoping it'll do a little something, because now with my knowledge and how to live economically, if it just does a minor hit, even a hit, anything like that, I'll be able to bank my money a lot better and be able to sustain myself, because social media is allowed me to sort of get out there and still tour and still be in touch with my base of fans all over the United States. Before that, it was just a mailing list. That's how you kept a hold of people. It's changed a lot for me, but I still enjoy what I do. I mean, right. I wish I could go more into depth about more facets of the industry, but I mean, radio's changed. You know, it's really hard for a rock and blues guitar player to get on the major radio stations now. I mean, Gary Clark did really well. John Mayer did really well. Those are guys, you know, sort of like the examples of doing really well. But there's some other guys floating around like in the midsection, you know, Walter Trout. Joe can't leave out Joe Bonamassa in the big time. Right. But there's a lot of the guys in the mid-level, which I would consider myself at, we're able to do very well because the whole world has access to our music, you know. Right. The people over in Japan or Europe are able to prop up my sales and my visibility or relevance enough to keep me going here in the States. And I think that's been a real plus for a lot of musicians. Sure. Just driving and getting out there and doing it, it's still pretty much the same for me. I mean, just get out there, just no more partying and stuff, but just getting out there and doing the road and doing what I love to do. And I still have to write songs, so I still want to put out records.
There you go.
And for some reason, I'm able to fool record companies and giving me tens of thousands of dollars to do a record.
Nice.
But on the same time, too, the technology has changed too. You can also make your own records now. You know, you can, all it takes is a laptop, and that's it. The things that go along with recording, and you know, you got it set up. You can make a really good record on a laptop. Yes. But for me though, sonically, there's a big difference between a studio album that you spend tens of thousands of dollars on versus a laptop album. I know you can get real close, but believe me, I hear the difference between those two albums.
And plus, there's a whole vibe. There's a total vibe. Absolutely. I think a vibe is a very big thing, and sometimes people forget about that. But I think that the vibe is such an important piece and sometimes overlooked these days as far as recording is concerned. Yeah, so I feel you there for sure.
Yeah, because the vibe's going to come through in the music. You'll hear it in the music.
Yes. I mean, a good studio, a good engineer, good sound, that's inspiring to a player. That's inspiring to a singer, you know, and when it's battle conditions and you're trying to get something done, it might not, you know, it'll be something, and it'll be something memorable for sure. But, you know, I like the good vibes better than the battle conditions.
Definitely.
What excites you musically?
What excites me musically is when I learn new stuff, and when I learn new ways to get around different chords and new ways to solo or new sort of rhythmic things. That excites me when I get on something that I can add to my war chest, you know, my vocabulary. And that excites me. I mean, of course, new music excites me when I hear some good stuff coming out. I hear some new good players. There's a couple good players around Austin. There's a couple good players I see out in the States and stuff. But I guess I'm focusing it back on me. It's just when I break through another level in my playing, that excites me, because those are so few and far between, you know.
Yeah, that's amazing to hear, you know, and inspiring too, just to hear the amount of dedication and just all the practice that you get in there, right? To go ahead and what excites you is moving past where you're at, like growing musically.
Yeah, I mean, you have to stay. I mean, that's what also has to keep me fresh, because it'd be easy for me to sit back and just stream videos all day long, right, and not get out and practice, because it starts getting in my head. You know, you got to be working on stuff, Chris, because there's a reason for being a guitar hero, believe it or not. You know, because I don't want to be that cat that you hear about him, then you get down and see him play. It's like, I thought he could play, you know, what was that? You know, I mean, I take that seriously, you know, and I want to be, not that I want people to be impressed by me. I want them to see, yeah, you know, he's got something kind of special. And that's what I've always known that I've had, is something a little special. And that's what I look for in a lot of new artists, you know. I mean, yeah, they could be just gifted with technique and stuff, but is there something special? Are they able to hold my attention for a long time? Do you think they can get out and go on the road and drag people in from their houses, you know, people 400 and 500 miles away? Are they going to want to get up out of their house and come down and see you, pay money to come see you, you know?
Right. Somebody had told me this at some time, and it just stuck. And what it was it's so easy to wow a crowd. You get a guitar, you go play. It's the easiest thing to do is wow a crowd. What you want to do, and the hardest thing to accomplish, is to make them remember.
Yep.
That's where it's at, right? And so making them remember. So, you know, hopefully it's being memorable for the right reasons and not the wrong reasons.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So there's that again too. We keep going to that place. Aside from music, what else do you like to do, man? What got any hobbies? Got any other interests?
Let's see. Well, yeah, I mean, I like to do a little bit of cooking. I haven't been doing a lot of cooking because I've kind of been by myself for a while since, and it's just no fun to cook for myself. I like cooking for somebody else, but when I do, I like to sort of do it up. I like to, I still like to practice a lot. You know, I'll get into some nice TV shows, something like that, some TV series. You know,
Sure.
I'll get into that. I'll get into, once in a while, I'll get into looking around at my equipment and saying, well, if something needs fixed, or start recategorizing or recataloging the stuff, you know, because I've actually got a bunch of stuff that I'm a pack rat. I'm not one of these cats that gets something and throws it on eBay or tries to sell it. Right. I've got a lot of everything that I've still had over the years that people have given to me. I mean, I have 30-something guitars, and my working collection is like 6 of them. And there's like guitars that I haven't seen. So sometimes it'll be fun to go through the guitars and say, oh, I haven't seen this one in a while. And I'll put some strings on it or something, or play around with it and stuff. You know, it's, my musical life has kind of taken up my hobbies. I do like traveling, but being in a band that gets on the road, that sort of satiates that. You know, I'm out traveling around. I love traveling to exotic places for gigs. You know, I always loved going to Japan. It was great. Ended up marrying a Japanese woman for a while, you know, learning their culture, learning how to write and read it, learning how to speak it. I'm not great at it, but I can get around. Nice. Drop me anywhere in Japan, I'll be fine.
Nice.
You know, and seeing places, you know, going to European countries. I played a week-long gig in Beirut. That was really interesting.
Wow.
And this was during, like, when times were kind of hot, you know, people's heads were getting chopped off. And I still, I didn't even think about it. I was like, hell yes, I'll go. A gig in Beirut, shoot, yeah. By myself, fine with me. Send it. You know, that kind of takes up a lot of my habits and stuff. You know, I like hanging around with my girl, Beth Lee, and then I like playing in her group and learning songs with her, because her group is like an Americana sort of blues thing. And then she's kind of venturing off into this, like, almost like college kind of sound, but it's still got a little bit of rock to it. I mean, she's got so many influences. When I first saw her, she was more like a country and rockabilly and a little bit of blues. Right. And now she's changed a lot. Basically, because she's been working with this producer, Vicente Rodriguez, for a while, who's the drummer for Chuck Prophet. And so, so she's been doing that. She's been branched out. So I've been learning that music, and that, you know, and plus she's written 7 of the 12 songs. She helped write 7 of the 12 songs in the new album. Oh, wow. Because I've always loved her songwriting. She's great with lyrics. So, you know, I learn a lot from her. But that's Beth Lee. That's where I like hanging out with her and stuff. Nice. But you know, I don't have a whole lot of hobbies anymore. You know, it's just like, coming off the road, I've kind of done it all there, and I kind of just sort of decompress when I get home. And then I have my gigs. I have my gigs around town, so that keeps me busy.
Good. Being that you are quite the road dog, and you've done thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands of gigs, and millions and millions and millions of miles, right? What is the best show that you've ever played? What is the one that just stands out to you? Your favorite show that you've ever done?
There's actually been a number of those shows. Those are the shows that I call the magical nights, where all the ideas worked. Everything you were thinking was coming out of your hands, and it was just all working. I mean, I remember some really memorable shows at the Fox Theater in Boulder, Colorado.
Yes.
I used to love that place. Memorable shows at the Grand Emporium. Let's see. I had a really nice show up, and there was a festival. It was up in Canada, and there's like 5,000 people up there. And I remember there's a video on YouTube with it. I played Shiloh, or the other song I put lyrics to, but it's basically Shiloh, minor blues. That was like one of those really good nights. And then I've had great magical nights to just tables and chairs,
right.
When nobody's been there. And, those are nights I have a lot of fun at, because I can start trying anything.
Right.
And when it works, it's just like, this is so cool, because all the ideas are working. And there's nothing but tables and chairs, but it didn't bother me. I mean, that's why I am. When I hit the stage, it's play as hard as you can, try as hard as you can, because who knows if that's your last gig or not. And I play it like it is my last gig, because this is how I learn. This is how I learn, is when I'm trying out those ideas. I sound tremendous when I'm practicing scales in my bedroom. I'm a great player, but it's when I get out and play in front of people that it's like an extra weight has been put on me, and it's not so easy when you get in front of people. You kind of tighten up. So I'm trying to practice that muscle that goes from here to here. Well, I'm looking at it reverse, from here to here, on the guitar, and to limber that muscle up to get good. Those are the nights I try for. But yeah, I'd say probably the Fox Theater were probably like my favorite shows. The Fox Theater in Boulder.
Let's go the other side of that. What's the worst show that you played?
Boy, I can remember that
Uglies.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
I had this one show at it's funny how you could, just like the bad stuff, you always remember the bad stuff.
Absolutely.
I had this one show at Musicians Exchange in Delray Beach in Florida, or Fort Lauderdale. It used to be, the old one was in Fort Lauderdale. And I had just gotten pedal boards, I'd just gotten them. And they were like, since I had like so many pedals, instead of having this huge, big rectangle in front of me, I had these two like offsetting ellipses that were set up, like one here and one off on the side. Right. And so it would go with ergonomically how my leg moves out. So one pedal went bad on it, and I could not find which pedal it was. I couldn't take it out of the chain, and I had a musician meltdown on stage during a song. I was tearing into that board, trying to get it out, trying to bypass it, and it should have been filmed and sent off to psychiatric schools for study, because it was that bad of a meltdown. And I'll just always, and from that day on, that is why I do not have a pedal board, so I can take things out. And I know, yes, there's probably some wizard pedal board maker out there that's listening to this going, oh, you just got the wrong guy to make it for you. I can build you something. I know you can. I know you can. Trust me, this is the way I am. Just let me do it old school, run it in series, because I could take one pedal out and throw it on the side and just keep rocking.
Yeah, there you go. That's awesome. I love that. All right, man. Well, coming towards the end of this here interview, I like to kind of ask these questions. They're quick fire questions. So it's just like, you don't even think. You just go, man. You just go. All right. And I'm real curious about this one with you, just because it's you. Top 3 guitar players.
Okay, McLaughlin's my man. Hendrix after that. And, it's really tough after that, McLaughlin, Hendrix, and then after that, it's just a bunch of them, Beck, Stevie, Albert King, all the Kings. It just spins off. I could really only name the top 2 guys, McLaughlin and Hendrix for me, and that's not including all the jazz guys I love, man.
Right. Well, let's go there. I'm kind of curious, man. Top 3 blues guys, and then top 3 jazz guys.
Top 3 blues guys. You got it, BB, man. BB can play so many different styles. I'd have to say BB. Then there comes Albert King, would probably be my next one. And the third one, I'd have to go with Stevie, because Stevie just did things. He really changed it all up. I mean, and of course, I'm also forgetting Eddie Van Halen, who changed things up too. But,
right.
It's tacitly understood his hype on that list,
Oh, absolutely.
or his place on the list.
And jazz guys? You said
jazz guys. I love Joe Pass. I love, there's a time I go through this phase. I listen to Michael Landau, but Michael Landau is really kind of a rock guy too.
Right.
George Benson, another one of my top guys. He can play. I'm convinced he can play anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, Holdsworth. I love Holdsworth.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, right on, dude. Top 3 Desert Island records.
Desert Island records. I'd have to have Revolver, Beatles Revolver. I'd have to have Axis Bold as Love. Then the third one, it'd probably have to be Beethoven's Ninth Symphony.
Wow. Okay. If you could put together the most ridiculous band, just your dream band, whether these people be alive or dead, who would it be?
Take Miles Davis, Keith Jarrett, Tony Williams, drums, bass would have to be I'll come back. He's a stand-up guy, one of my favorite stand-up guys. Play with Train on the keyboard player. I'd have to go with Joe Zawinul. Well, no, I already said Keith Jarrett. Well, right. Throw Zawinul in there too.
Right.
Another keyboard player. I'd have to go. I already got guitar player, horn player. Let's go with Sonny Rollins on sax. And God, how come I can't think of that bass player? He's my favorite. Well, let's go with Charlie Hayden on bass.
Okay. Want a singer in there? Who would it be?
Oh, the singer. I'd have to either go for I do like Sarah Vaughan a lot. But the rock guys, I mean Robert Plant. Oh, God, he's such just an iconic voice. Johnny Hartman. I love him. That's a jazz cat. I'd have to probably go with Robert Plant.
Wow. Yeah. I'd love to hear Robert Plant go with a prog, jazz.
Yeah.
Just to see what would happen. And I think that he would be so down with trying something like that too. That's just me anyway. All right, man. If there was one band you can tour with right now, who would it be?
Probably be Weather Report, but they're all gone. I would love to tour with Weather Report. The peak band, when it was Erskine, Pistorius, Shorter, Zawinul, those guys. Or Miles's band that he had on the We Want Miles, with Stern and Bill Evans and Ron Foster and drums. I mean, I saw them on that tour, the We Want Miles tour. And it was great.
Cool. If there was one song that you wish you wrote, what would it be?
I wish I'd written For No One by the Beatles.
I love it. Wow, man. That's great, dude. That's great. Well, brother, I thank you so much for hanging with me, man. I'm just so happy to see you and catch up with you a bit and get to know more about you. And yeah, me and this guy have gone, many, many miles.
Years, miles.
And I love it, man. It's just one of my favorite people on the planet. This is Chris Duarte, everybody. Thank you, my bro.
Thank you, Ken. I love you, Ken. I love your family.
All right. Well, that's about it, everybody. I want to thank my special guest this week, my dear, dear friend, Chris Duarte. truly one of the greatest guitar players out there, man. And you heard it here. You heard it here. That dedication, the passion, all the time that he takes practicing. And of course, he's the biggest road dog I know, hardest working guy in this business. Go check out his music on all the platforms. Go see him live. You will have your mind blown. I guarantee it. I also want to urge you guys to go check out my website, www.kenvaldez.com. Over there, you can find out about my music. You can find out more about the show. I got some merchandise. Got some tour dates coming in. I'd love to see you guys. Also, there's links to my social media. I love hearing from y'all too. So drop me a line. I will get back to you. Also, if you like this show and you want to show a little bit of love, hey, I got something new for you this week. Our Patreon is back. www.patreon.com/KenValdezApproach. Man, I got some cool stuff in the wings, man, for those of you that are wanting to help out a little bit, because it takes a lot of time, effort, and money to make sure that this show runs properly and to get guests like Chris Duarte on here. So a little love goes a long, long way. Go check out our Patreon. Patreon.com/KenValdezApproach. That's about it, everybody. Until next time, be good to each other. Take care of one another. Bye-bye. Should have me 6 feet in the ground, yeah.